But never mind if you're late.
There you go. It smells like antiseptic here.
I just put it on my hand.
Oh, okay.
You can pat. Just gonna grab one for eating.
Call the meeting to order. Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton,
Here.
Trustee Dodge, Trustee Guerra,
Here.
Trustee Ruzick, Trustee Calandrello,
Here.
Trustee Carroll, here, Mayor Peacock.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the December 18, 2017 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of December 18, 2017.
Second.
Are there any changes to the minutes? Trustee Ruzick.
I had one change, and that was on page 11, in the first paragraph. If the minutes could just reflect that it was the village attorney's opinion that Hacienda had met the requirements.
So can we approve like to approve the minutes with the suggested change from Trustee Ruzick?
So move.
Second again.
Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton,
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello,
Aye.
Trustee Guerra,
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick,
Aye.
Trustee Carroll, Mayor Peacock.
Aye.
Approval of January 15, 2018 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Calandrello.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of January the 15th, 2018.
Second.
Are there any changes to the minutes? Call the roll.
Trustee Calandrello,
Aye.
Trustee Guerra,
Aye.
Trustee Fenton,
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick,
Aye.
Trustee Carroll, Mayor Peacock.
Aye.
Recognition of police officer.
Mr. Baker, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, on January 13th, 9 o'clock in the morning, we received a call from one of our residents, a senior citizen, and calling about a possible suspicious person near her home because there was fresh snow and she saw some tracks in the snow. Officer Sears was dispatched to that event, met with the woman, Mrs. McGowan, did an investigation, checked the area, didn't find anything to indicate any type of criminal activity at that time. Mrs. McGowan, however, was a bit concerned the lock on her storm door was broken. And having seen those steps in the snow, was a little more concerned tonight than otherwise. Detective followed up a couple days later, checked video in the area, turned out probably that nonetheless, Mrs. McGowan was concerned that the front door handle was broken. Officer Lassier said, I might be able to get by after work and fix it. So after work, he did, went out, bought a lock for the door, and then he parked at Home Depot, came back and repaired the door for Mrs. McGowan. That's above and beyond. We got a letter from Mrs. McGowan, which we come here all the time, telling the mayor and the board about crime stats. We had a great year in the sense that crime stats went down, arrests, new programs, things of that nature. We don't get our officers on the back enough for those type of things, for which we really do receive an awful lot of letters. But this was after work, we went over there and fixed the door locks and made sure she felt safe in her home. So Trustee Gear, I think, has a copy of the letter. Would you mind reading it?
I would love to. This was written to Lieutenant Hottinger. It said, I would be very remiss if I didn't write to compliment you for having this wonderful officer in your department. This morning, I phoned the non-emergency number of the Orland Park Police Department and related the nature of my call. The young lady, also very nice, sent out an officer immediately, namely Officer P. Glacier. number 70, badge 79, to check on my call. He handled the situation most professionally and was just as nice as could be. He noticed I had a problem with my door and said that after he was through at work for the day, he would come back to see if he could fix the problem, which to my utter joy, he did. What a nice and helpful young man, and you must be so proud to have as one of your officers. He would have my vote any time. Sincerely, Evelyn McGowan.
And Officer Glacier, I'd like to thank you personally. I get a fair amount of these letters, and this one is above and beyond, and you demonstrate what all of our officers do and how you serve and protect, and I really want to thank you for your efforts on this.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee
Can I
Carroll?
just comment? I've known Officer Glacier since he was a community service officer with our police department. This is not unusual for Phil. When I was a Cub Scout leader, he helped our Cub Scout pack, came out and talked to all the kids, spent as much time with them as they wanted. He was on duty, came out of his patrol to help us out. This is what he does on a regular basis. It's the kind of man he is.
Phil received formal recognition at our award ceremony in November. We thought this was so unusual that it should be brought to the attention of the board and general public.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Trustee
may
Graham.
add, the chief was not sure that Officer Glacier would come because he doesn't like to get public recognition. So we're glad he's here.
Mrs. McCowan would have been here, considering the weather, and she's a little bit ill, so she couldn't make it. So thank you.
And on that note, our next agenda item is going to be moved back to the meeting on the 19th because he could not make it to the meeting tonight. So the consent agenda, A, January payroll approval, B, accounts payable from January 16th to February 5th, 2018, C, 159th and LaGrange Road various invoices approval, D, 2017 asphalt paver maintenance, additional scope of work payment, E, elevated tank number 5 rehabilitation engineering proposal, F, 15610 LaGrange Road, LaGrange Retail Development Property Annexation Ordinance, G, 15610 LaGrange Road, LaGrange Retail Development Final Plat of Subdivision, and H, 15610 LaGrange Road, LaGrange Retail Development Ordinance, I, Saratoga Center Multifamily Residence, J, Stellwagen Farmhouse Foundation Restoration Phase 2 bid, K, Ziegler Infinity of Orland Park Special Use Subdivision Variances Ordinance. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Ruzick.
I move to approve items A through K of the consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Phase 2 Village Facilities Energy Savings Contract with CTS Group.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve accepting the proposal from CTS Group of Chicago, Illinois for a guaranteed energy savings Phase 2 projects at a cost not to exceed $634,253.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? And would you like to give us your presentation regarding the LED versus the T8s?
Sure, we'd love to. I do have representatives from CTS Group here to discuss the methodology that we went through in making the decision and some of the incentives that we've seen from both ComEd and DCEO. Michelle? Giving the presentation is Michelle James with CTS Group.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here this evening to introduce our team and to provide an overview of the Phase 1 project that we provided for the village and then what we're proposing this evening for Phase 2. maybe.
Maybe not.
Oh, sorry. There we go. So what we intend to cover in the next 10 to 15 minutes would be a brief introduction of CTS, again, an overview of the projects we talked about, some information on the background of the T12 upgrades and the comparison that we did for LED versus T8s, a little bit on the measurement and verification schedule, and then follow up with questions. So just a brief introduction. A few years ago, the village researched the procurement method of guaranteed energy saving contracts and the benefits, and at that point, they went out for a competitive request for a proposal, received several proposals, went through an interview process, and in June of 2015, they selected the CTS group as their qualified provider and performance contractor. So as part of our team, my name's Michelle James, I'm the lead account manager. Also with me is Jaime Frosto, who's our lead project engineer, and Chris McNaughton, who supports Jaime as well as one of our engineers. And then Adam DeVos didn't make it tonight, but he is our on-site project manager who is there on a day-to-day basis implementing the project. So following being selected, we went through an investment grade audit process at all of the facilities, and then we worked with the village to prioritize projects that would be included in the Phase 1 performance contract. And this is what resulted as part of Phase 1. At the Sportsplex, we identified systems that were operating inefficiently and at the end of its life. So we looked at separating the domestic hot water from the hot water heating boiler loop, and we ended up reducing the operating hours of that system and increasing the efficiency. We also were touching on some items located in the locker room, so at that point we did some upgrades to the men's, women's, and family room showers. We also looked at the Orland Health and Fitness Center. We replaced a pool heating and dehumidification unit that was failing and undersized. And then finally, the last piece of our Phase 1 performance contract would be upgrading the T12 lighting technology that has been recently phased out. We did this in phases, so this particular phase here included the Village Hall, the Civic Center, and the Recreation Center. So in a couple slides, I'll touch upon how we compared different technologies and came to the T8 decision. But first, the overall result of this Phase 1 project was a guaranteed price of just under $1.4 million. I say guaranteed because if anything arises during the project implementation that is unforeseen, CTS does not come back to the village for any change orders. That's part of the guaranteed contract that we have. Also, we provided guaranteed energy savings of just under $3,000 per year. So after the first full year, we will measure and verify that, and if there's any shortfalls, then we will write the village a check for the difference. We also anticipate maintenance savings of about $8,700 per year for these systems. And then we also pursued incentives of $27,486, and that was through the DCEO. So we were able to secure those incentives for both the lighting upgrades and the domestic water system.
If I could just interject, Michelle.
Sure.
The savings might not seem that great, and that's because a lot of the decisions on what we're going to do were based on failing units, not necessarily on where we could see the most savings from a energy efficiency perspective. So it was more driven by unit age and condition.
So while we were implementing Phase 1 projects, the village experienced some failures on some systems in some of the other facilities. So the CTS team was able to quickly evaluate those systems, offer up some improved designs, and provide a proposal for consideration. So the village chose to move forward with those projects, which resulted in we're replacing the rec admin boiler system. We're also replacing the police station steam boiler, which is actually happening this week. And then for the Public Works facility, we engineered a new makeup air unit system, procured the units, and then we are overseeing the installation in-house by the village of those systems. So that increased the price of the Phase 1 project by $307,000, but we also gained energy savings of just under $4,000 per year for those add-ons. We anticipate maintenance savings of $38.47 per year for those new systems. And then we will be pursuing incentives of $15,000 through the NICOR program at the end of the project. So this brings us to the Phase 2 that we are proposing this evening. Again, as in Phase 1, we worked with the village to prioritize some projects and then put this proposal together. So at the Sportsplex, we're looking at the boiler upgrades. Again, these units are operating at the end of their life, are inefficient. There is a unit, an air handling unit, that serves the gymnastics area, also at the end of its life, and experiencing some maintenance costs, so we're replacing that. And then we're also providing an overall system evaluation of the HVAC system to determine ways that we can improve the comfort levels in that facility while improving on the savings piece as well. So with the Orland Health and Fitness Center, the work that we're doing there, actually when we looked at replacing the heating and dehumidification unit for that system, we also offered up recommendations on putting automatic door closures for the locker room, which the village did in-house. And the last piece was replacing a duct sock, which is in place right now, that's torn and damaged, and also experiences the design has some maintenance issues as well. So we're replacing that as part of this project to reduce the maintenance. And then finally, we're looking at the cultural center, doing some replacement on some metal halides on the interior, exterior, and then the final phase of the T12 upgrades at these 4 facilities. So Public Works, Cultural Center, Rec Admin, and the Centennial Park. So this, again, would result in a guaranteed price of $634,000, guaranteed energy savings of $8,800, maintenance savings just under $2,000 per year, and then we anticipate incentives of $23,416. So when we look at lighting upgrades in projects, we don't just look at first cost, but we look at energy cost, we look at maintenance cost, and then we also look at incentives that are available. With the Village of Orland Park, which is not uncommon with other villages that we work with, you have a franchise agreement. So not every single facility do you directly pay utility cost. So when you factor that in, sometimes things like LED they don't necessarily financially make as much sense. So when the 4 facilities that we're looking at for Phase 2, Cultural Center is the only facility that the village pays directly for. So when we evaluate those savings there, the payback just isn't as attractive for the LED option. So I've laid out all the cost here, and the payback is a few years higher for LEDs in this case. So it really, in Phase 1 and in Phase 2, came down to the economics of it. That's to the reason that the village is proposing to move forward with T8 over LED.
And how long until the T8s need to be replaced versus how long until the LEDs need to be replaced?
So the T8 technology is around 36,000 hours versus the LED technology, which is around 100,000 hours. But when we look at the payback period, we factor in those replacements. So overall, when you look at the payback, I want to say it was somewhere between 38 versus 42.
Well, based on what you just said, 36,000 hours versus 100,000 hours, that's almost, you're almost going to get to your third replacement of T8s by the time the LEDs are done. So I'm looking at 139.5 that we're spending now, then we're going to spend 139.5 again, just to say the price to stay the same, and then we're going to be almost to where we have to spend it yet again.
So I apologize, maybe I didn't explain that correctly. When we look at these numbers, the 1854 and the 2813, that is taken over a 20-year period of time, and the replacements of those systems are factored in there. So when we calculate the 1854, we're factoring in those replacements in that cost. There's a calculation that we do that factors in how many times that you have to replace the T8s versus how many times you have to replace, well, you're not replacing over that time period, the LED fixtures. I can forward on the exact calculation to the village as a follow-up, but in the overall life cycle of the LED fixtures versus in the T8s, we factor in that you are replacing
So what's the
T8s.
cost of replacing the T8 fluorescents the second time and the third time?
Again, I'd have to go back and look at the labor, the install cost for each piece, and then the labor cost to tell you exactly what that would be. But again, the 1854 versus the 2813 factors in that.
Because I can't see how $1,854 per year gets anywhere near the 139,000 I mean, that's a lot more than 20 years.
Jaime, you want to?
I'm Frost, one of the engineers with CTS. Aside from that, these T8 upgrades are only for a portion of the building. So these are not whole building conversions or installations.
Are you talking? so
But
many-
if it's apples to apples and we're replacing the same fixtures, I see a cost of $139,000, which is going to have to be done 3 times, versus the cost of $235,000, which has to be done once. So, I mean, by my math, that's $420,000 roughly versus $235.
The 139
Unless you can break down, fixture versus bulb and let me know.
Exactly.
That's what I'm asking for, but I don't
Right.
see that here.
No, the $139,000 cost is for the replacement of the ballast. It's for going into the light fixture. The cost of replacing the bulb is going to be significantly less than the $139,000 when we have to relamp a building or relamp a room or anything like that.
Okay, so what is the cost of relamping everything twice over the lifespan of the LEDs?
That's what's built into the maintenance cost.
Okay, but $1,854 a year doesn't get you that much, doesn't get you to the cost of the actual install. It's saving over what you have today, but it's not saving, you follow me? There's still a capital outlay that's going to have to go on here. So what I
Yes.
want to see is what the capital outlay is.
Is that a number you can provide?
Absolutely, and I apologize. I can get you the exact calculation and formula that we use that lays out, here's the cost of the lamp, here's the cost of the labor, here's how many times that we're doing it over 100,000 hours, and that's what we compare to the LED portion. So I can definitely follow up with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Ruzick.
I have a question. You're saying maintenance costs, but that says maintenance savings. Is it savings or is it cost?
It's savings, but it's factored into the life cycle of the fact that we've got 100,000 hours of an LED. And so the savings for the LED is versus the T12. They're both compared to the T12 that's there right now.
Okay, but that's not a cost. It's
It's a savings that you would see as compared to what's there right now, and that is calculated based on the replacement cost over time.
And so, again, what I really need to see to feel comfortable is I need to know what the capital outlay is going to be for bulbs that we're going to have to replace twice before we have to replace an LED bulb. Then I can compare apples to apples, and not to mention that the T8s are older technology than the LEDs, so is that going to mean we're going to have to change the fixtures again in 100,000 hours and switch them over to LEDs? So are we better off doing it to LEDs now, and is there going to be a savings when we have to do that, so we don't have to change the fixtures yet again? Those are the numbers I want to see, which I don't really see here.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Carroll.
if I could ask, that 139.5, you're saying that's is that the 20-year cost? Is that what I heard correctly, or no? Or is
No,
that just
that's the cost to
initial
replace those right now.
All right.
One time.
So, as the mayor asked, is that something we have to, as those bulbs go, it wouldn't be the full 139.5 because we're replacing ballasts and everything now, but some of those are going to eventually go. So there will be an additional cost,
To replace the
whereas
bulb.
with the LED light, there won't be additional costs as frequently. Is that fair?
Right.
Okay.
So, for me personally, that's what I would want to see to know, because, additionally, at essentially, I mean, give or take, about 8,000 hours, you will have replaced the T8s 3 times. Now you'll be at your first replacement of the LEDs. By the time we do that, are we going to be in a situation where the T8s are obsolete and we're going to be switching to LEDs anyways, and it's going to be cheaper to switch over to LEDs? So those are the numbers I'd like to see and be comfortable with. So we're making a good long-term decision, not a short-term decision.
I can definitely provide that calculation for you to make that final decision.
Okay.
And if I could just add again, this is all based on today's economics that we have.
Yeah, understood. That's all you can do is base it off of today's economics, but we need to see, me personally, to make this kind of a decision, I don't know how the other board members feel, but I'd like to see how that plays out over time based on, what are the replacement costs for the bulbs in 36,000 hours, and what are the replacement costs again for the bulbs in 36,000 hours. Now we can make an apples to apples comparison.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Ruzick.
Because it looks like the energy maintenance and incentives all of those which are savings are better for the LEDs than the fluorescents. Is that correct?
They are higher, it's just when you look at the overall payback period, it is not as attractive.
So I guess what would make me feel more comfortable is I saw the whole entire calculation, so we can analyze that, not just the summary, so we can see if there's, what that looks like for the long term, and is this the right decision, or are we going to be spending $235,000 in 108,000 hours to put LED fixtures in, instead of just the bulbs? That's,
That's a fair question. We have that calculation. We can definitely follow up with that so you
Okay.
can see it in more detail.
And just to add, I mean, I had a email from Director Ingram here when I was following up on this information here, and our payback period is very long. For the T8s, our payback is 38 years versus 60 years for the LED.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and double check.
well, I guess if we
was
could
the
see all
number,
that, it
but-
would make me feel a lot more comfortable about that decision.
The next slide I have here, I just have a couple more. As John had mentioned, in Phase 1 and Phase 2, a lot of the projects were driven by the age of the system or the fact that they were failing or operating somewhat inefficiently. But we've also looked at a couple of projects, and speaking of LED, in areas where the village directly pays. So the Sportsplex is a facility that the village directly pays the utility cost. LED street lighting is another area that the village directly pays for. And so as you mentioned, again, because the LED streetlights, or LED lighting, I should say, is 100,000 hours, the maintenance costs are factored in, which contributes to the payback. So at the Sportsplex, you have 2 indoor courts that have 1,000-watt metal halides. And so we've looked at replacing those with LED technology. So the budget price we have right now is between $350,000 and $400,000, and we're estimating energy savings per year between right around $30,000 on average, maintenance savings a little bit, $10,858 per year. And again, that is maintenance savings that we're looking at that's factored in because you would have to replace those metal halides several times over the life of the 100,000 LEDs. There's also incentives available. So when we look at that particular project, we're talking about a 6 to 8 year payback as compared to the metal halides that are there right now.
So what this is suggesting, and I'm just going to play it back to you, is
Sure.
that this investment will be completely paid back in 6 to 8 years, and we will have moved to the new technology, which will allow us to keep that going forward much
Yes.
longer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And when you think about that, after you pay for it, because this technology is lasting 100,000 hours, now the village is generating $45,000 a year that can be contributed to other projects. So it's a really nice project in terms of LED that we would recommend. I just looked at if the village financed this over 10 years, I think I looked at about a 3.5% interest rate, and escalation about 4% on utilities. You could generate $170,000 in that 10 years, and that includes the payback. So that's a really nice project that I wanted to at least mention to you that we're considering bringing to the table. And then also LED street lighting. We've been having a lot of villages that are interested in this. We just finished a project in the Village of Evergreen Park. They did about 1,400 lights. It was about $840,000, and they're going to see actually less than a 5-year payback because they were able to take advantage of a grant program that generated about $500,000. But it was a great project for them, even without the grants. And then we're also doing some in Mundelein and Urbana. But in looking at Village of Orland Park, you have a lot of high wattage Cobra heads, which is ideal for these types of projects. And if you did everything at once, it would be around a $3.5 to $4.2 million project, generating with guaranteed and maintenance savings about $350,000 a year. So that's a big number. But again, I did the same exercise. It would pay for itself between 7 to 9 years, and it could generate over $800,000 just in the first 10 years, and that's after the payback period, which considers if you financed it. But when you look at 20 plus years, which this LED technology is 100,000 hours, you're talking about a lot more money that you're generating for the village. So I wanted to at least highlight that project. I have a lot of villages that want to do this in phases, which makes sense for funding capabilities. but it's a really nice project when you're talking about LEDs and taking advantage of that maintenance
And
savings.
you mentioned grants. Are there any
Yes.
grants available that we can take advantage of that aren't reflected in this?
So this program here is through ComEd. And right now, that's the only program that is available for the LED street lighting technology. But we have a staff that researches this every day. So when we go at the time to implement it, we will make sure that we uncover any grants that are possible. I know there's some bonus programs being thrown around right now, so depending on the timing of the project, we would take advantage of that as well.
I would also like to interject that as part of the 2018 budget, we do have $500,000 that's allocated towards initiating a streetlight replacement program.
And the 3.5 to 4.3 represents a couple different technologies as part of our process. We look at a variety of different technologies. I know that the village has been wanting to standardize in a couple different, so the higher cost is the GE lighting system that we're looking at, but we're also investigating another option that would be less expensive and still provide the same amount of savings. And then we competitively bid it out to get a good cost for the project. So here's a summary of the benefits of both the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 being proposed. Avoided cost in terms of annual savings is around $30,000, and then we were able to get about $65,000 in incentives. You're avoiding capital costs of systems that you would put into future budgets. And then also the lighting would be completely phased out for the T12 technology. And then many of the new designs for these systems extend the extend the life of the systems through the design itself. And then all of these items are aligned with the Smart Village program goals of newer building technologies to enhance the visitors and the staff, and then obviously improve the comfort levels of the systems.
Are there any other questions or comments? Trustee Fenton.
Is there some way to, in the proposal that we had, the motion that I just made, to take out the lighting portion and so we can move along with the other stuff? And then when you get back to us with the information that's been requested, we can make a decision on that part.
The lighting portion of this is $139,500. So if we removed the $139,500 from the proposal, we could move forward with the others.
Absolutely.
Quick math.
Any other comments?
I have one.
Trustee Guerra?
On the previous slide, it mentioned that T12 conversions, the lighting upgrades will be eliminated. And I thought I saw that the grants for the T12 will be eliminated.
There's been discussions each year that they're going to stop with the grants associated with T12s. Fortunately, this year they haven't, but that's been something that ComEd that DCO talked about and ComEd's talked about. So it's always a concern that the longer that you have them, then you may miss out on grant opportunities. So far, you haven't, which is great.
But if they're going to do that, might they be transitioning to conversions to LED grants?
They are incentivizing some LEDs. LED tubes, they're not, but LED full fixtures, they would be. But yes, I mean, next year they could eliminate upgrades for T12s. So that would be something that you would miss out on if you didn't finish the upgrades this year.
I think the board's temperature is to upgrade the T12s. The question is about whether we should go T8s or LEDs and what's the best long-term decision. We all know that there's short-term, financial issues that every village deals with, but we still need to we're in a position where we can still make the best long-term decisions, which is what we need to do.
And you could do it one of two ways. You could completely remove the lighting from tonight, or you could just keep it as is, and if you decided to go to the LED, it would be a change order add, because it's additional money.
I guess my question would be to our attorney, which way would be the best way to go? To take it out or to leave it in and do a change order if we decide to go with the more expensive?
It would be a change order add either way. It's just a matter of how much.
I think you'd want to look at a change order afterwards. Prove it now. If you're going
Prove it now at the total amount?
to the total amount and then change it, if that's what it is.
It'll be more if we change it, so.
Yeah, and I think
I'd have to see how it's.
Okay.
And I think if we do that, we give staff the direction not to move forward with the lighting until we make a decision on that.
Okay, so my motion wouldn't have to be changed. There we go.
No, we'd have to change it.
Are there any other questions or comments? So to reread the question, the motion is to approve accepting the proposal from CTS Group of Chicago, Illinois for guaranteed energy savings Phase 2 projects at a cost not to exceed $634,253. So the question is put as read. Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge. I'm sorry. Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And one thing, if you could just give us you can give us the whole analysis and we can look at it and see, how that looks, and then there's no reason why we can't move forward at the next board meeting.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Amend Title 7, Chapter 4, number of Class B liquor license.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Carroll.
ordinance number, please.
5268.
I move to pass ordinance number 5268, entitled an ordinance amending Title 7, Chapter 4 of the Orland Park Municipal Code regarding the available number of Class B liquor licenses issued by the Village of Orland Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
how many other gas stations do we have currently that have Class B liquor licenses?
Gas stations, I don't know. Convenience stores, we have the 2 7-Elevens.
I thought it was 3 on the 7-Elevens.
I think there's 2 7-Elevens currently, I believe, and since they've gotten them, we've had no issues.
And so these are going in at gas stations, though. Circle K is a gas stations.
Yeah, they're convenience stores with a gas station on the exterior, yeah.
You don't know if we have any other situations that are similar? Other gas stations, convenience stores with gas stations?
I don't know.
I'm just wondering if this
I
is
don't know of
something
any.
that's going to start. Does anybody have that answer?
There are none others that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of, I think just the ones that have the convenience stores attached to them.
So there's 2 7-Elevens, and then there's these 3 Circle Ks that have, the corporate-owned Circle Ks that have submitted. Any other questions? Call the roll.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
No?
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Hey.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Motion carries 4-2.
Modern business cities to consider life, business, and recreation in our Across America series discussion.
So this is in regards to a discussion that I've had with a group that essentially is looking at Orland Park to do a 3 to 5 minute, but probably be closer to 5 minute segment on their show that's 30 minutes long. What they promise for the cost is 1 airing on Fox Business and 34 regional airings, either Fox or ABC. Initial discussion seemed like something that we should consider pursuing because the cost alone was probably less than what it cost us to get a scripted production such as this that we would have access to, that we would have full access to, plus we'd get access to all of the B-roll as well, so we could use our own social media for that. And it is a scripted text that would be done in May or June and would be very good economic development marketing. And we haven't agreed to anything. We don't have a proposal here yet. That would come at the next meeting. But what we wanted to have the discussion tonight was because we're planning on having a phone call tomorrow with them, so any questions that you might have that we need to follow up with them on.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Carroll.
Yeah, I like the idea of marketing ourselves for economic development. I think it's a great idea. My only question is, I don't know, based on what I've seen so far, what time frame on those networks they'd be looking at? I used to do media buying a long, long time ago when I was skinny with a full head of hair. So I don't know yet whether this is a good deal, whether it's not, what a comparable vendor might charge, but I like the idea. I think we should explore it and perhaps maybe look at some other opportunities so we have, similar to what we're doing on our light fixtures, a apples-to-apples comparison.
And I think it's a good question to ask them what the time frame is of the airings. So we can definitely ask that tomorrow afternoon.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton?
I had sent you an email referencing this, and I have a couple concerns. One is the cost, the $25,000. Right now with our budget situation, I don't think we really have the money to do that. I agree with Trustee Carroll when he said that marketing our economic development is a wonderful thing if we can afford to market it to bring in more economic development. But I'd also like to see what the cost would be if we use our in-house videographer, Tracy, to see what they would charge, and possibly if we could do this ourselves. I just think it's a cost factor at this point in time. Maybe we have to wait till next year's budget, but, considering we had to cut a lot of programs and then to go and spend this kind of money, in my opinion, it's just not fiscally responsible at this point in time.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Gira?
my understanding was that staff was going to do some research on other communities that have worked with this organization. Is that correct?
That is correct.
References?
Yes, we
ahead,
we
Joe.
were able to reach out to one organization that utilized them. It was a not-for-profit economic development organization known as the Madison Regional Economic Partnership. They did say that they were happy with the final product. However, they didn't have any data that they were able to give us as far as what time the airing was what time they aired on these at TV stations, and then also they said that they could not confirm how much return they would have gotten on their investment had they not had a sponsorship to help them offset the cost with this. They don't think that they would have spent the money to do the programming. However, they did say that the final product was good, that they do utilize that final product for their own marketing throughout their region. But
One reference?
it was only one person that we were able to get in touch with at the time, yes.
And the one thing that Joe said, I think that's important here too, is that there is an opportunity for sponsorships because they do interview 3 or 4 of our businesses, so that's an opportunity as well to offset some of this cost,
Mr. Chairman?
if not all of it. Trustee Carroll?
The only other comment I'd like to make is Trustee Fenton made reference to an in-house videographer. We don't have an in-house videographer, so regardless of, I know who she's talking about, but that's an outside vendor. So whether we use them or somebody else, and that's what I was talking about with an
Right.
apples to apples.
And
Maybe we
including
can-
airtime.
Pardon me?
And it's not just production time, it's
Well,
also
that's just
airtime.
that. So I think it still would make sense to have our communications department look at what it would cost to produce it ourselves, like you said, because we'd want to have ownership of it, and then compare that with the media buy, but we can't do that until we know what times it might air.
And understanding from the first, for our first meeting, we would have ownership of all of this. We would
Right.
have availability. So that's the good news, is that it's something that we would be able to use, as Joe said, over and over again for our own marketing purposes, plus the B-roll, which would allow us to splice and dice for other things as
Right.
well.
Right.
Any other comments? So are there any objections with us having a further phone call tomorrow and trying to get them to get us an actual proposal? And in the meantime, we will attempt to get other, apples-to-apples comparisons to get an idea. In my mind, that kind of investment, if it's professionally done, which it is, what I've seen is it looks pretty good. I'm guessing it's going to cost us more to produce that, or as much to produce that in-house without any kind of placing on these various media outlets. So might be a very good opportunity to increase our profile from an economic development perspective for a relatively low cost for that kind of exposure.
I'd like to hear more.
The Village of Bedford Park has been doing media buys mostly on radio, but they've been doing it for 5, 6, 7 years. I've been hearing their ads, and they're getting some success out of it.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Riddick.
I had a question. Is it, our segment, is it part of an actual like 30-minute or 60-minute program?
Part of a 30-minute show.
Oh,
In a 3 to 5 minute segment, they felt like with everything we have going on here, it'd probably be 5 minutes, fully scripted. They developed the script over 3 months. They come out and shoot it over a full day. That shooting would probably be late May or early June. At least that's where we were at with it.
So I did see the one piece on Madison.
Right.
But I wonder if they have like a whole show that we could look at, you know, like the 30-minute segment. just
I
to
can
kind of
absolutely
get-
We can ask that question tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, what's it going to be part of? What's
Right.
the rest of the minute, you know?
We were
Right.
able to,
And I think that'll be a little bit tricky as far as what it'll be with, because you do get to choose your own regional. So I'm assuming that there's other segments choosing the regions we're choosing, so they're probably splicing and dicing those. So I think that might be a bit of a challenge to,
and Trustee Ruzick, to that point, we were not, we were only able to get that segment because I believe that when they give it back to us, they give us, that particular segment for that. And then those, for example, this Madison group, they put that on their own YouTube station, so they didn't include the entire show of that. So I could, absolutely look
I
at,
just
see if we
wanted
could get
to
it.
see what
The whole show
format of
looks
the
like,
whole
right.
show. I don't
Of
think
course.
it's some hokey
we can
show.
certainly ask that
Yeah,
question.
well,
We
yeah,
can certainly
we'll
ask that
definitely
question
ask for
tomorrow. I
that.
think
I
those
wanna
are
be
good
part of a hokey
questions.
show.
Yeah.
That's
And
why
I-
we're having this discussion, is so we
Right.
can come up with those good questions to ask.
Yeah.
And then how long have they been in business? And you may already know that. I'm not sure.
I will find that answer out as well.
Okay.
We can ask them. All right, we can move on to the next item.
Orland Park Technology Commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Carroll.
I move to approve for the village board to create a technology commission.
Are there any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
I,
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrella.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Amending Village Code Commissions?
Okay, and if I could make one comment, Joe, could you tomorrow get an ad out on the, on our website that we're looking for technology commission members? Because I have a few in mind, and also if the board has anyone in mind, that'd be great as well, because there's several members that we need to come up with.
Ready?
Yep.
Amending Village Code Commissions?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Guerra.
I move to pass ordinance number, please.
5269.
I move to pass ordinance number 5269 entitled, "An Ordinance Amending Title II, Chapter 10, Sections 2-10-2, 2-10-3-2, 2-10-3-5, and 2-10-4-7, 2-10-4-8, and 2-10-4-1A, B, and C of the Village Code, Veterans Commission."
Second.
Are there any questions or comments?
Go ahead, Drake.
So I'll just explain what this is for everybody. This is just amending our Village Veterans Commission to reflect what it's really doing right now. So it's just verbiage that some of the responsibilities they're currently already doing, and just making sure those are added and making it consistent with what they're actually been doing over the last couple of years. So this is part of the ongoing process that we've been going through for the last 8 months or so, and this is the first of a few that'll be coming through to make some minor changes. Call the roll.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrella.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Amending Village Code
Mr. Chairman,
Commissions?
Trustee Calandrella.
I move to pass ordinance number 5270 entitled, "An Ordinance Amending Title II, Chapter 6, Senior Citizen Advisory Board, Title 2, Chapter 7, Parking and Traffic Advisory Board, and Chapter 18, Community Relationship Commission of the Orland Park Municipal Code."
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? So again, I'll just give everyone a brief update. What this is ending these 3 commissions because they haven't been meeting, they haven't been doing as much. The one of this has probably been doing the most is the Parking and Traffic Advisory Board, but it's minuscule compared to what it used to do, and most of it's handled by our police department. So I want to thank Trustee Calandrella for sitting down, working through me with this. So this is, again, part of that ongoing process we've been going through, and these three boards are being basically decommissioned at this point. And just so that all the board members know, I did speak to the majority of these board members so that they weren't blindsided that this was ending, and for the most part, while they thought there might be some utility, they understood why we wouldn't continue with them. So they were very gracious and also gave me a lot of insight on what has happened with those in the past. And with that, call the roll. Oh, Trustee Calandrello?
Just one comment. I enjoy working with Keith, the mayor, about together on this. But there's also a couple more committees that the mayor has appointed, a couple people to help him investigate a couple of the committees. So we'll be getting those sooner or later, and we'll be moving on. So I appreciate the process, and I think we're learning a lot about the process and about what we're doing good and not so well. And I think we have some new volunteers, and the open discussion in October really helped out. So we've been chugging along, but making good progress. So thanks, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Trustee Guerra?
One question, the members of these advisory boards, were they, or are they being considered for appointments to other?
Some of them have expressed interest in others, and some of them, weren't really all that interested, but they were happy to have served. So it just depends on the individual. In some cases, they're not even here anymore, and the senior advisory board actually only has one person on it still. So, and that person we couldn't reach. So yes, so they will definitely be considered. In fact, Doug Stepanski, who is the Parking and Traffic Advisory Board, he was on. It was through these meetings that I identified that he was uniquely qualified for the pension board, and we needed someone. So he was who we appointed. I think the last meeting we appointed him to the pension board. So that will definitely continue.
Very good.
With that, call the roll.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Guerra?
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick?
Aye.
Trustee Carroll?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Nobody signed it. Nobody signed it.
And it looks like we have no visitors to speak. Is there anyone that wants to speak? With that, board comments, Trustee Fenton?
Oh, nothing at this time. Just want to make sure everybody drives home safe and sound, because the roads when I came in were pretty bad. I know they're out there working on them, though.
Trustee Calandrello?
No comments this time. Thank you.
Trustee Ruzick?
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Carroll?
Just wanted to again thank staff, specifically Assistant Village Manager Keating, for the report we had on our sports facilities. Obviously, a lot of work's been done, and with the consultant contract that we approved, a lot more work will be done, but clearly we've made some headway, and I think it's going in the right direction.
And Trustee Guerra?
I would only mention that Zachary Stack, the 15-year-old from Marist High School that's working to raise money for the Orland OP Baseball for All, had a fundraiser last week, and he raised, I think, almost $4,000. So
for him.
he's well on his way. They're just waiting for the final papers from the state for their tax exempt status, and then they're off to the races.
Great. So what I want to share with you are some board resolutions, and they're general, but some goals that we have, and I've talked to the board members about this. So that's something that I think everybody agrees upon. There's no disagreement here. So regarding planning, we'd like to make sure that we develop a strategic plan, that we set village and department goals, and that we have metrics for performance measures by department. Fiscally, we want to reduce our operating budget, and we want to implement cost accounting improvements to enable some fact-based decision making. Some of that has already been put in place for this next year. Economic development, we want to continue to make infrastructure improvements to make development areas market ready, as well as improve our marketing documents, which we're working on and we talked about a little bit tonight. And then we want to implement a new website portal, which is part of what Frank is working on through the Technology Commission and through his department. Speaking of technology, we want to develop and begin implementation of a smart city initiative, which we've already started with the Economic Development Advisory Board, and the goal is to take the Technology Commission and take members off of each to help make this happen. So, Frank will be involved. It won't be something that staff is just running with. It'll be using the expertise we have within the village to do it. Develop and implement the new website like we talked about. I think one thing that we'd like to see is conduct a couple of Facebook Live events instead of the teletown halls, so something that's less costly for us to do. Implement improved audio and videotaping of village board meetings. We've already started by getting audio here, but we want to make continued improvements to that, to make it a little bit easier for our reporter friends to find the stuff they're looking for on the website. And then Parks and Rec, we'd like to implement a concert series at Centennial Park West. And then the reinvestment plan for Parks and Fields, which they were talking about earlier today. So we'd like to have that plan in place so that we can do something for all of our fields to bring them up to speed. Public Works, we're working on alternative fuel vehicle replacement plans. So as we look to replace our fleet, are there alternative fuels that make more sense, that are not only more friendly to the environment, but also cheaper for us to operate? And then lastly, on the HR side, is make sure that we implement, the board and the mayor implement a performance review process for our village manager and provide him feedback on the assistant village managers, on the department heads and on the departments to give him our perspective. So with that, everyone be safe tonight going home. Thanks for coming out, those of you that didn't have to be here, and have a good night. Move to go to executive session.
Move to go in executive session for A, approval of minutes, and B, setting a price for sale or lease of village property.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Guerra?
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick? Trustee Carroll?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye. It's a land speed record.
Let me come down a second.
Oh, got person.